So sorry, AD. I feel like a piece of shit. I really do.
I did my best.
You did.
I did my fucking best.
You did. Do you think it wasn't good enough? No. So everything I'm saying is not resonating to you.
Hey guys, welcome to Little Black Book 91. Listen, it's crazy. We are doing an open panel. This is where we get you guys, just to give you guys an opportunity to come and say your piece on the latest episode that's happened. I did want to give a little bit of an explanation because I know I did a video and I dropped it. It's got quite a bit of views and people were having debates in the in the chat about what I said about AD. So let me just clarify a few things before we go any further and we get deeper and we open up the panel for you guys to come on and have your say. Okay? First things first. I'm going to say this. I think AD is stunning. I think she's amazing. I think she's beautiful. I think she's a looker. I think she's good looking. Okay? I think she's good looking. So just to put that out there, I think AD is actually really attractive. Now, the point I was trying to make to people was that where you put your efforts is often a determination about what you value. And having watched her on the show, I was like, whoa, okay, I want to make it very clear that when I made the deductions about her face, I wasn't necessarily saying she was a person that wasn't attractive. She's absolutely attractive. Okay, all right? She is attractive. What I was trying to let people understand, because I don't want anyone to misunderstand it, I actually want understanding to come forth from this. What I was trying to get people to understand was, number one, I didn't feel like Clay looked at her that way. It wasn't that she's unattractive in general. No, it was about one person looking at her specifically. How does he view her? And I was feeling like he wasn't seeing her the way he needed to see her. And sometimes you get an instinct. I can't tell you what it is. Sometimes as a maybe an empath, you can say that. Sometimes you're just seeing something. That's the information that's coming to you. You have a feeling, a gut feeling, especially as somebody who has used their body considerably. And I mean, I've used my body considerably sexually in a way. You kind of, when you kind of see someone, you kind of know. It's kind of instinctive almost in a sense, right? So when I was looking at AD and Clay, I got a little bit of that because the very first thing he said was about looks in the pods. So that immediately told me he's going to focus on her looks, right? So I was trying to get people to understand, if somebody's going to be so heavy on the looks when a show is not about looks, he's already in the wrong place, right? He's already in the wrong place, which means his mind is already in the wrong place. So if you start off that way, and let's be honest, love is not blind. We're not going to pretend as if it is. It's not blind. So clearly that is an issue. But when you're willing to voice it, though, as much as you might want to say, people are being honest and open, I get it. I just felt like he was I felt like him saying it also determined her mindset too. So by you voicing it, the person's also going to have to shift and move according to what you said. And it shifted their dynamic. So what I was trying to point out was, whenever someone has a high focus on their own body, and I'm telling you from experience, as somebody who goes to the gym, as somebody who was a fat boy when I was a young kid, as somebody who wasn't seen and wasn't very much heard, as somebody who was looking for affection and validation, I'm going to tell you, I know what it looks like when someone is looking at you from the body, right? And when somebody looks at you from the body, right, they are not looking at you as somebody they really, really want. I'm not saying they don't want you, but I'm saying that predominantly the energy that dominates that person wanting you is sexual. So it's not that, and by the way, there are loads of women here who have voluptuous bodies. There's nothing they can do to hide that body. The body's gonna body. But the question is, what do you lead with? Because men are always going to have a thought process towards you regardless. If you're beautiful, if you've got a body, if you're curvaceous, men are going to always have what energy they're going to have towards you. My question was, what do you lead with? Because whatever you lead with, it's also going to be what you're selling and what the person has the ability to say yes or no to when they want to buy. So when I was looking at AD, I was looking at AD selling her body. Not that she's not attractive, not that she's ugly. No, it had nothing to do with the fact she's dark skinned. Like all of these things, they were nothing to do with what I was determining. What I was talking about specifically is, where does she place her value? Because when somebody places their value in their body, they are selling their body. And when you sell the body, I'm promising you, most people are not going to now want to buy your mind. Why? Because you're selling the body. And the body is a part of Western society culture. Can I say it again? Western culture specifically. I want to say specifically because that's the sphere we're in. In the Western culture, we are over sexualized. Whether you're white, black, light skin, whether you blue, green, it don't matter. The communication marketing that we have in this life is oftentimes over sexualization. Therefore, when somebody presents their body, it's no longer oftentimes from an innocent place, because both the person selling their body, and I don't mean this prostitution wise, I mean in terms of that's what they lead with. That person has been influenced by the marketing of what they've grown up with and understands the power of the body. The person buying the person buying the product or buying, quote unquote, the body also has been over sexualized and understands the power of you offering your body. So what I was trying to say was I was trying to get people to understand something, that I saw AD lead more with the body. You get what I'm saying to you? And when you lead more with the body, it often returns an energy from a man that is very sexual. And as a man myself, I'm telling you from two perspectives. One, using my own body, and two, also watching other people. You know what I'm saying to you? Me using my own body as a selling piece, and then the other part also being somebody who has bought into that idea of a woman's body being the thing that she's offering. And I'm saying from my perspective, having gone to the gym and worked out, got yourself in shape, got yourself some nice arms, got yourself a nice chest, got yourself nice abs, get your legs all in shape, looking all physically good. If I know the energy I carry when I lead with my body, right? I know, and when that is and when that is where I place my value, you will see it in the way that I move, right? You'll see it in the way I move. I didn't backpedal, Gene. I didn't backpedal. I said the exact same thing. You just need to open your ears. And I can't lie to you. You just need to open your ears. I said the exact same thing. The key thing here is that when that person leads with that thing and they place value in that thing, what's going to happen is a person's going to respond to that. And so I was looking at AD. I was like, listen, baby, if you place value, okay, if you place value in your face, then everything around it, you're going to make sure this is where you place value in it. And the difference between a face and a body is the sexualization of that particular thing. For instance, having a bum is over-sexualized in our community, all right? Having chest, as a woman can be over-sexualized in the community, right? And Elsa knows I'm a bit of a dark artist. I will tell you straight. I'm going to open my shirt up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I open my shirt. When I was in Ghana, I opened up the shirt a little bit. First of all, because it's hot, but two, because also, I like to get a little bit of attention. I like my ego being stroked a little bit. That's just the truth. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. I can tell you the truth and tell you what I'm leading with at a particular point in time. Yes, when I wore a shirt that was open, or I wore a very tight shirt to accentuate my muscles, I know exactly what I'm doing. So I know what I'm trying to sell. So the point of the matter is that where your value is? Because if it is, what's going to happen is you're going to have a market for it. Right? You're going to have a market for it. So what I was looking at AD was, if you place the value in the body, which her body's banging, by the way, banging. Okay? Her body is A1. What I was trying to make clear was, if her face is what is her money maker, where she places value, then I was like, the hair and everything would have been on point, because that's where value place it all. Okay? Right? That's what when if your face is your moneymaker, you make sure your lipstick's on point. You make sure your eyeshadow's on point. You make sure that's what's gonna draw men in. So you make sure everything around it just is on point. And that's what I was trying to say. So what I was saying was that when we saw her like that, I was like, ugh. Because every time we saw her clothes were crisp. Very crisp. She always chose the right kind of clothing, right? To accentuate and to, add a shape that she's already got. Okay? So what I'm saying was, and unfortunately, the problem we have here is that because the body is over-sexualized, when you put the value in the body, often the return is sexual energy. And so what I was saying about Clay was, okay, listen, maybe Clay fancies her completely, and I use the scripture and everything like that, right? But what I was seeing from Clay is, and I think you guys have also, some people have messaged me as well and sent me, you know, have also messaged me when it comes to Clay's exes or whatever as well, right? Someone said that, you know, Clay's exes aren't really good lookers. Well, that would actually highlight my point. That it's not about AD being the most banging chick ever. It's about what do they lead with, right? And that's what I was saying about, see, men, and let me not go too far. I have to balance the equation. You know what I'm saying to you? That having a body is good, but that man, he likes to look into your eyes. That man likes your face. Okay? That man likes your face. Okay? So when your face ain't a looker for him, not that you're not a looking person, when your face is not a good looking aspect for him, that's oftentimes where the problem starts. That's what I'm just saying. I'm not saying that in all cases there are different types of men. I'm sure someone can prove me wrong and tell me their uncle married somebody who was like that, and I'll say fantastic. I'm not going to deny that. There are actual situations where people overcome that. But the most times I'm saying is that men fall in love with that face. And when that, and listen, it's to him, not to the world. Okay? It's to him, not to the world. Right? Keisha said obviously he doesn't attract the women, but he doesn't attract women that he really wants. That's also true as well. So that's why I said, and thank you, Felicia. That's why I said that when you go to the Bible, what you see of Jacob and what happens is someone who then saw face and body and said, this, I need to kiss this and then I'm going to cry. Right? Get what I'm saying to you? So that's why I was pointing that out. And, you know, and that's why I said I was pointing it out because I was trying to understand, you know, that's what I felt from Clay. And a lot of men do this as well. You know what I mean? But you want to like the face, my brother. Like the face. That, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying he didn't ever say she wasn't beautiful. He did say she was beautiful. In fact, on the wedding day, I went to watch it again. He did say, okay, that she's beautiful. Okay? All right? He did say that on the wedding day, that she looked beautiful. All right? But the reason why there was a lot of people feeling like Clay wasn't looking at her face isn't because they don't feel AD's not beautiful or she's not attractive. It's actually his energy. And it's like, that is the way he was going about it. It's the way. It's the way that people felt some type of way about it. But, yeah, just to clarify that aspect. Let me put the link in the chat. Listen, I've started it off. Okay, all right, started it off. Okay, we have 300 people in the room and it's growing. And we appreciate that. You know, so we appreciate that. Okay, so if you want to join the conversation, I'll put the link in the chat. Okay, all right. I'll put a link in the chat. Now, of course, I've heard that I think AD and Clay are actually together now as well. That they actually are. Apparently, they're still together, or we saw a video that maybe highlights that they maybe still be together as well. So, you know, listen. Hey, I said already, it can work. I never said it wouldn't work. I said if he honestly goes into therapy, he honestly goes into, you know, what he does. I think this can still work. I said this already. That this can actually still work when it comes to Clay and AD if he's going to do the work. If he's going to do the work, you know, then they can definitely work on that aspect. But anyway, let me get Jay up as well. Talk to me, Jay. Good seeing you, baby. Oh, you look good, baby.
Hey, everybody.
Face looking.
Well, you know, it's now my new moneymaker, so I have to make sure that it's on point.
That's right, baby.
Even though the hair is not on point.
No, listen,
Listen.
The face is on point. I feel the hair is beautiful, and I've seen you in all types of hairstyles, baby. You already know. how I feel about the hairstyles.
I'll mess with you, okay, or whatnot. But what I like
Yeah.
about
After the pee.
the projection has slowed down a little bit. Yeah, I see the growth. I appreciate it. No, I understood a lot of times what you were talking about when you were talking about the face of the moneymaker, and that and when we had our conversation, our dialogue yesterday, when I had used the word projection, it wasn't about you projecting your personal self, but I was thinking that some of the audience, the way they felt, and maybe some men around the world might see something a certain way. That's not necessarily always our opinions and our feelings. And I can't take that to heart until Clay actually says, I don't fancy her face. You know what I'm saying? Because yes, she leads with her body. So he's going to lead and responding. Bye, Bambi. Bye. Go. He's going to lead with responding the same way. He don't lead in relationships, period. So when it comes to how the woman carries themselves into the relationship, that's how he's going to lead. That's how he works business. Let me see what you need, and I'm going to cater to that. You need to be applauded by your body? Well, that's what I'm going to do. And baby girl do dress her butt off to her body, okay? It's there. That's why you got Jimmy over here feeling comfortable like this. Oh, she's stacked. Everybody's constantly looking at her every 5 seconds, because when you're on the field, that's all most of the people can really see from a distance is your body. They're not zoomed in on your face or nothing like that. The cameras, the only people that get to see it is us at home, really. And maybe the people on the 50-yard line, on the field, close enough. You got 20/20 eyesight. Congratulations to you. You can see her face. The rest of us can't see it. All we see is her legs kick up in the air. She twirl this way, that way. We just watching them. So yes, for the most part, we're not zoomed in on the hair. We're not zoomed in on the makeup on her face, the lashes and all that stuff until we get into these intimate settings. And so that's why I try to keep the critiques on that part to a minimum, especially if we sitting in a pod or some boxes for 2 weeks or whatever. Child, y'all would have seen me all kind of ways. Okay, it'd been one eyelash hanging down here. Like, I'm on the other side of the pod. He can't see me right now. I ain't got no time. They keep waking me up every 5 seconds. And I'm hungry. Leave me the hell alone. Like, but Clay, I know I mentioned this to you yesterday. Somebody in that family prayed for healing. Somebody in his family prayed for healing and growth of that whole family. Don't know who it was. Don't know when they sent that prayer. This might not have been the best way healing needed to be started, but God does things the way he want to do it. Them coming on this show, I know everybody want to be like, if he's not ready for love, he shouldn't have wasted time coming on the show. Some of us don't prepare for marriage. I'm be honest. Some of us, it's just not what we see in our head growing up. I still ain't say this, so that's probably why I ain't did it. And I ain't trying to do it anytime soon. However, this man obviously wants it to some degree. He put himself out there to try to do it. But the prayer was for healing for the family. What was said on this show needed to be said so that family can grow, so he can heal. Hopefully his daddy healed, child. That's going to be a long road to work. I don't even think you got it in you, coach. You be patient as heck. I don't know who gonna help that one, okay? But at least for Clay, the mama, maybe even the sister, because I don't know what the relationship to everybody is. Maybe it's a good start for them. AD has her own other issues that she has to work on. As a healer, she has to learn how to protect herself in the process of healing others. She cannot pour into people what she don't have. So she has to learn how to go isolate herself and rejuvenate herself, because a lot of times healers don't have healers to pour into them. Now, she could be blessed enough to find her some mentors that can fill her back up every so often and everything like that, but they still have their job of healing other people. So unfortunately enough, healers don't get that benefit of having people pouring into them a lot. So she has to learn how to pour into herself. And that means sometimes taking a break from people we really care about and we really love, and just saying, I need to love on me and I need this moment for me. I need to be selfish in this moment. And it's a very hard thing for a selfless person to do, is be selfish, because it feels weird to them, but it's much needed. And I said this on my live. There was a meme that I read that said healers need to date protectors. They need those people because those people know how to put up the boundaries for them. When people are coming in and sucking up all their energy, those people say, hey, babe, don't do this one. Don't take this case. Don't handle this situation. That's not your problem. Clay may eventually evolve into that person, but he's not that person right now because he needs so much. I think he wants to be that person for the fact that at the end of the day, he told her no. He has it to be in him to be that type of protector, but he needs a lot of development and growth to get there, especially at the space that she needed, because clearly she don't have it enough boundaries of her own to protect herself even from him. And if you really watch carefully, he told her no, even at the altar. Head shakes, actually verbally no, like don't do it. He told her don't do it, and she responded telling him when he was giving his speech, no, don't do this. Clay, she kept saying, Clay, don't. So it's like, I've been warning you. I've been trying to tell you, stick with my decision on this right now, because I just not in the space for you. And if she was literally true to her statement when she told her mom, I'll follow this man off a cliff. Sis, you should have took that cliff of no. When he kept trying to tell you, he told you at the table, why does the timeline matter? She told him, I would take a yes or a no at the altar. At the altar, he said no. He verbally said no before you even had a chance to say yes. And she rolled her eyes and looked at the officiant. That was your moment, sis. That was your moment to go ahead, and whoever said it first, and he was trying to give you an out. He was trying to actually give you an out to say no first. So it wouldn't look so bad. So if she ends up back with him, this is going to be the reason why I feel like if she ends up back with him, is because she realized she had all the signs and she ignored them. He kept telling her, y'all can't tell me one lie he actually told her. Not one. I can't think of one lie he actually told her. So it's hard to put all blame on Clay. He might have did a lot of things wrong, but at the same time, so did she. Is he going to cheat in the future? Well, that's determined to him. That's about his willpower. I can't say what he is or ain't or whatever. But me personally, this is just me personally. I would rather have a man tell me his truths and let me make my decision on what I want to do with my future than him lie to me and take away my option. And my last thought on them too is more so for like the audience, and y'all could be mad at me when I say this. But women, we ask for men to tell their truth. When they do it, we either be like a Chelsea and don't be a safe space for it, or we be similar to AD. I ain't gonna say she said she gonna play herself as a victim just yet, because she ain't really did that either. But we be similar to AD, ignore the signs, and then turn around and be victim at the end when they've been telling her their truth the whole time. And a lot of times we do that because when they say their truth, we want to hear what we want to hear regardless. We got to start practicing being truthful to back and forth with one another, so we recognize when we hear truth from people and we can make our decisions accordingly. And that's all I'm going to say for right now.
Listen, yeah, 100%. And I love the word that you said about obviously healers and then needing also the protection aspect. And the problem that, this is why I said this, that the problem that I probably have with Clay, not necessarily problems and big beef or anything like that, but more of a case of someone like Clay having a man in a perspective where he needs your healing always leads most of the time that man to vampirish tendencies, because all they're going to able to do is be able to suck from you because you are the one that has the healing ability, right? And so he can't play that protector role because there are too many wounds that he's carrying that need fixing. And so, in anything, all he's going to end up doing is bleeding all over AD. But also the aspect, also you have to look at AD too, which is you also undertake a larger job than you actually need to, right? So he's telling you that he's bleeding and he's bleeding a lot, and the job requires for a multitude of different doctors to be involved, but you are the simple nurse and you're saying, I can handle it. But the wounds are so many, blood's just pouring from every hole, you actually can't cover it. And so sometimes you overestimate the job that you're going into, and that's what makes it the project, instead of actually it becoming just a relationship that where two people are trying to help each other grow. Now, listen, I think this could still work. If he is willing to put the work in to take himself out of the game and go and heal up as well, right? If he can do that, then I can see how this can work. And if she also goes to work on herself too, I think this could work. I never said this was never going to be a relationship that wouldn't work. I just felt like it needed more time, and it needed more of them to have done some work. But they found each other because they are a mirror to one another, right? So even if you're on Love is Blind, somehow, unfortunately, the fates, they say, the gods that we serve, the universe, whatever you want to call them, of course I'm a Christian, but still, whatever it does, it finds its way to put you in that position to learn the lesson, right? And sometimes it's very painful. I can tell you that myself, I know, so it's like, it's so tough to kind of watch AD and Clay, because I can see that, that what she was trying to do, and I can see what obviously he was trying to do. Like, he was trying to be genuine. He's trying to be real. Like, this is the only way he knows how to try and make it work. He could have done her more dirty. You know what I mean? He really could have. I know we didn't like the fact he took her to the altar, and that's because he's not a protector. He's not. So that's something that he didn't learn from his father at all. And he's unfortunately not learned that skill yet. But like you said, he had been telling her throughout the process. That was his level of protection, of what, as much as he could afford, or as much as he could actually do and understand. That was his level of protection, which was, I was telling you, but when up to that point, I was telling you that I'm not ready, basically, in a sense. And I think part of him wanted to be ready. I think part of him wanted to be so ready in that particular way to go forward. My thing is that, it takes two to tango. And you have to be responsible yourself and not put the blame on someone else. Like, if I've done the compassion, so I can take the compassion but aspect away from it. I need AD now to look at herself and look at why she's in that situation once more. I need Clay to look at himself and ask himself the question: why do you need to be in a space that you are finding yourself in a space where you're gonna have to keep telling the person, I might do this, I might do this, I might do that? That is not healthy for you either. And that's not a safe space for you either. You have to keep telling the person, I may quit, I may do this, I may not be in this, I may not be in that. It's like, at that point, you're not in a healthy relationship either. So yeah, it requires both of them to go and do some work. So for me, there was no victim necessarily or villain. I see it as two people that are unhealed and are reflecting back one another. Unfortunately, one of them is going to be more hurt than the other in this scenario, but you both are a mirror of each other in a sense as well,
Since we got gloves off. Okay, so gloves off.
Oh, damn.
This part of the gloves off is going to be specifically for Clay. For a person that relates to Clay's situation, okay, of coming in and watching people, family members, different people, different relationships just be the way they are. You know what I'm saying? Good, bad, ugly, the way they are. And growing up, learning from that, it put a fear in me. It also put a fear in me to say, why go through all of this just for a breakup? Why do I want to put myself out there trusting one person just for them to let me down? I understand that. I looked at, now here's a kicker. My daddy ain't the best, but my mama was the actual one who cheated. Okay. So I'm getting it from the same parent. I'm not getting it from a daddy's parent. I'm getting it from the same sex parent, just like Clay getting it from the same sex parent. This was a person that I'm supposed to look up to, model. That's supposed to be my image to follow. I got that fear. I understood it. My thing is, especially when I got pregnant at the same age she got pregnant with me, I sat there and said, I'm going to vow from this day forward not to be anything that was bad of my mother. Everything that was good of her, I took from her. Anything that was bad, I tried to remove out of my life as much as I can every time it came up. I'm going to fall short on some of those times because it's in my DNA. It's a part of my heritage. It happens sometimes before I even recognize it happens. But I made a pact to myself that the negative parts of my mom that I did not like, I'm going to just stay away from them. Clay, you can do the same thing. Stop using your daddy as a clutch and just go ahead and live your freaking life. You're hindering yourself from your own blessings because you're trying to live in your daddy's footsteps. It's time for you to walk your own path and do what you need to do for yourself, for your future, for your family. Point blank, period. Be your own man outside of your daddy's shadow. He made his mistakes. Go make your own. If you don't want to cheat, guess what? Temptation will come. You can sit there and say, God, make me strong enough so I can block every temptation that comes to me. That's it. That's all. Build your willpower up. Each time some temptation comes to you, guess what? It gets stronger. Just do the work. You an athlete, bruh. You're a whole athlete, so you know how it is to go out there and practice what you want to be. You don't want to go to championship game? Practice for it. That's all I got to say.
Oh, said talk to me.
Hey guys, I appreciate what Jay just said. Clay is dealing with, he has a firsthand account of what dad did, and dad has been pouring into him for over 20 years. It's going to take a lot of heavy lifting to purge all that dad and all that experience has poured into him. He can do it. As you said, he's an athlete. He can certainly jump in and he could certainly do the work. But, you know, his dad is his hero. This is what my hero's doing. It's got to be right. This is how my hero's been living. He been living well. He said, my dad never been without a lady on his arm. That's what he's looking up to. We saw the celebrities he's looking up to, the type they are. He's got to do a whole shift in perspective and who he believes in and what he believes in. And that's going to take heavy lifting. He can do it. I agree with Jay. I have seen both sides of the coin. I have uncles who have had a rotation. I've had, my grandfather was, you know, my grandmother actually had 2 husbands till death do us part, which is a blessing. Most people don't find that one time. So I've seen the family man and I have seen the family and type of man, you know, and part of me was like, I'm not going to let anybody play me. I'm not going to let anybody have that much control. So that's where my origin story kind of started, because I'm not going to be the wife sitting at home wondering where he is, what he's doing, and everybody in the street knows he's doing me wrong. I understand where Clay is coming from. I understand, but he's got to, at some point, find it within himself, the reason to do better. And I think this whole experience has worked for both of them. Clay has like, okay, I see I can do better and be that man. And also AD is seeing that she's repeating the cycle. She's also going to hopefully remove that red nail polish, she says, that is painted with red flags. So I think this experience has helped both of them grow, but both of them need the time. I did not like seeing that they're together now, but they need the time to change, the time to show each other the change to be able to make it work.
Appreciate it. Said unpopular opinion. Phil, talk to me.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call some carnage before I get back into this little family event. Clay is the villain in this story, point blank in the period. He is the villain. Clay is selfish. Clay does not get a pass for me because of what his dad did. Also, his dad is the super villain. But my issue with Clay is Clay has a lot of introspect about himself, and he's done a lot of self-reflection. We didn't have to tell Clay his issues. He already knew his issues. So since he's already known his issues, he should have never got AD to that altar in that white dress in front of her family and friends just to embarrass her. He is the villain in this story. Now, AD, like Jay said, you definitely ignored the red flags, baby. You was giving us body, good body, great body. That body was bodying. And she's a pretty girl too. Just lose them lashes and that nose ring. But she's attractive when she pulled her hair back. But that body was bodying. But the one thing that I think AD does, she's a giver. She will fill her husband's cup up. She's definitely a giver, but she'll fill her husband's cup up to the point where hers is depleted and empty, and she's not requiring him to fill up her cup, excuse me. And as much as we talk about the issues that Clay has with his father, a lot of us are ignoring that AD also has some abandonment issues with her own father that are being ignored, and her feeling like her self-worth isn't high enough because her dad had abandoned her as a child as well. So I think that's another part of why, AD gives so much, because she's trying to, I must say this, she's trying to replace the love of her father. And I think she does it in these bad relationships because she said it. I always choose the same kind of man. She always chooses a man that she's always filling his cup up, but he's never filling up her cup. But Clay, as a man, should have been a leader and not gotten to that girl, to that altar. He should have pulled a Jimmy and said, I can't marry you right now. I'm not ready. Yes, he told her that he wasn't ready, but he should have stopped it. And because he did not stop it and he got her all the way down to that aisle, she needs to walk away. Because what you won't do is embarrass me. And what he did to that girl was embarrassing. Clay is the villain. As a brother, AD deserved to get much more respect than he gave her. I'm sorry. Clay is the villain. I'm all for a brother doing better for himself, but you should not have used this girl as a test run, as a test dummy. Because I feel like she was all in, but I also want AD to realize she is enough on her own. She doesn't need somebody to complete her. A marriage isn't to complete you, it's to help and support you. But you got to be able to stand on your own. And I think she does have some self-esteem issues. And Kojo, you're right, too. That's why she leads with body. Good body. But she definitely has to work on loving herself. I hate to say this, and this may sound a little wrong, AD has to love herself more than she loves others, especially her partner and her spouse. Now, I'm going to be listening in the clouds, but I got to get back into this family event. But Clay is the villain.
I love it. I love it. I love you, Phil. Hey, I'm gonna tell you, thank you. Okay, one, the thank you goes to proving Kojo's part earlier about how much the body, when you lead with the body, y'all pay attention, because look how many times you mentioned her body, and how it would have been edited down. But you mentioned how beautiful in the face she is. That's probably the same thing Clay was doing, but it's edited down. So if we edited how many times you said it,
you know why he said it that many times?
Because she led with the body. I just said it proved your point. It proved your point.
Not even just that. It's not just that. It's because the body is
body.
The body is bodying, but it's bodying more than the face. That is the honest truth.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But I'm saying it proves your point. thank you for the second fact too, is that selfless people attract selfish people. These two are always going to attract each other had they met up in the world some type of way. Because he's selfish and she's selfish. He's constantly going to need her to pour into him. What a selfless person needs is, again, a protector, because a protector is going to know how to protect themselves to say, you know what, you poured into me enough right now. Let me pour back into you some more. You need somebody that balance you out. Unfortunately, these two are just going to be going in a cycle like this instead of coming back to each other. Because as she's keep pouring into him, he keeps taking out. He just keeps taking out. He's a well with a hole in it. So there's that or whatever. But as far as villain, I would give you show-wise, yes. Again, these people are under contract. You already had Jimmy opt out. Jimmy was a short shot decision. As long as Clay and AD both keep being indecisive to production, they need them to go all the way to the altar. So as much as everybody wants to be mad at this man going all the way to the altar, what show would we be watching? What ending will we have? Just watching Amy and Johnny go to the ending? We'd have had no couples going to the ending, and we'd just be watching one marriage, and we knew that one was going to go through. So what more do y'all want? Y'all never satisfied. I don't know. We can't satisfy ourselves. I see that. I know we wanted not to be the black people, but shit, that Clay gave her a firm no, and she gave him, if you take me to the altar and tell me no, to hell with you. We probably would have had to have watched Jimmy and Chelsea go down. And I don't know if y'all really wanted all that whining. Jimmy, what do you mean no? How could you? Oh my God. Really? I don't know.
Go for it, Elsie. I don't know if you want to add a perspective. Go for it.
I agree with some that it's good that, Clay is self-aware. And, folks are thinking, some folks are like, we're coddling him. There's some people that take a long time to get out the sunken place. There's some people that realize, hey, I'm doing wrong, but how do I stop? How do I stop spinning these wheels when this is all that I have known? It's the same thing with AD. How do I stop feeding into these men and them taking from me, and I'm just seeing the best in them? It's harder for some. Some of them is running in a hamster wheel. Many of us here have had, behavior patterns that we have been able to change. We've been able to recognize and change some things. Some of us still dabble in dark arts. Some of us still dabble in other things that we ain't changed 100%. But again, that the only grace I give him, really grace I give him, is that he did not say yes and drag her through this. Because if he had said yes, I would have been still standing on, he shouldn't have said that. Why is he doing that to this girl? I think the show technically should penalize Jimmy for not going to the altar. You're supposed to do it at the altar.
I agree.
So everybody's contract, Jimmy should be strung out there by production. You have a contract. You got to pay up, because we paid for this whole day, all this food, this whole amusement park, for you to decide not to do it. Sure, the wedding probably costs whatever, but it's a cookie cutter wedding. Come on now. But, all that Clay didn't protect AD, took it all the way to the altar. That was the premise of the show. That's where it was supposed to happen. He stood by the contract. He is a businessman. He said he's an entrepreneur. He's like, before production sue me, I'm going to do this by the book. So again, it's not ideal. It's not where it should have happened. He should have told her. He'd been trying to tell her no from the kitchen table. But again, he took it to where exactly the show meant for it to happen. And I'm sorry, from going on out, anybody not doing it at the altar, need to be fined, at least for wasting my precious time.
Listen, that's a fair point. I can't fight that point. I think it's a fair point that we know that they're meant to go to the altar, and then say their no's or yeses, and they didn't do that. So I definitely understand that as well. So that's a fair point. I won't take that away from you. I think obviously again, you know, with Clay and AD's situation, you know, it's possible to be aware of your symptoms but not know how to change them. And sometimes, unfortunately, people use a vehicle of relationships to be able to change those certain behaviors, as in real time changing those behaviors by having somebody that they actually interact with to bring about a change. It's very selfish in that regard to do so. To put yourself in a line of fire like that, put the other person also in a line of fire where they're having to work with you in real time. But yeah, just because he was aware doesn't mean he knew how to change the behavior. And that's the biggest problem. A lot of people can be aware, but they don't know how. And the how is what brings the change to that person. If they can figure out how to do it, if they can get the right information and then begin to put into practice some of those behaviors. Sometimes you know your problem, but you don't realize the consequences of your problem, because you often don't sit around to find out the consequences of your actions, right? That's another thing as well. You know, just because he saw it from his dad doesn't mean he actually fully grasped it from his own perspective. Because again, everybody from their own eyes sees things from their perspective. And so therefore, we can also live in a land of what we call delusion, which is what I also think that AD lives in as well. Because in order for both of them to be able to work, they need to live in a land of delusion. I'm not that bad. I'm not that much of a bad guy, right? I'm not a bad guy. I just, you know, I make bad mistakes. No, you bad because your behavior is causing carnage for other people and it's hurting them in the process, right? And so in this instance with AD, the reason why he still has to take accountability, the same way I talk about dark arts and everything like that as well, as a person who's a dark artist in some shape or form, the truth is my weapon. I'm going to tell you the truth of what I'm going to do. If you decide to fall in, that's still your fault. But guess what? I still have responsibility. Even so, because if I know that you're going to fall into the pit and I don't stop you from falling into the pit and I don't remove myself, I'm still going to be responsible. Now I'm going to get my just desserts. I'm going to get what I want. But the reality of the situation is you are still going to be culpable for that person's behavior because it takes two to tango. Now we can discuss, I'm sure, and say, you know, I've told you the truth, so it's up to you. But the reality is this is where love comes in though. And this is where, unfortunately, and this is where, you know, Jesus was kind of dealing with me a little bit. I don't give a heck. If you fall into that pit, that's your business. I told you the truth. I didn't lie to you. I didn't deceive you. But the reality is, it's also not loving to do. If I know that by me and you interacting, and I get you to a place where you're going to fall into that pit, then it's not loving of me to not remove myself from the situation. Clay had the opportunity to remove himself from the situation. He didn't. So we can say that, you know what, he didn't do all that wrong, because in reality he let her know the truth, and there's a whole episodes of it watching him telling her the truth. The reality is he didn't remove himself. The reality is he didn't say, listen, hey, I got to quit this situation, this program. And then, by the way, of course, yes, I know they get the fines and everything as well, right? But if he had said, listen, I just can't go through this, I'm not doing it no more, I can guarantee he would have got out of it. He would have found his way. He would have found his way.
But wasn't that his thing at the altar? It still fulfills the contract, but at the altar now I'm doing it. It's still the same thing. It's not the one. It's not the ideal one we would all want, and sometimes we don't do it ideally the way according to people want. Sometimes we don't break up people at the right time. Sometimes we don't tell the truth at the right time. Some of us got bad timing on when we say and do things. You know, it's it happens. It's, you know what I'm saying? And if we knew in a perfect world, like, hey, I should tell you this long before this thing happens, we would do it. Most of us would do it if we want to protect that other person. If we don't give a heck, we would, you know, we just do what we want to do. But if we like that other person, we want to protect that other person, and we can see the future, we'll be like, all right, you know what? I see the future. It is what it is. I don't think we're going to work out. You'll still have some people, once you tell them that sit there and say, well, I hear you say it's not going to work out, but yay, I'm going to try anyway, because I want what I want too. Then what? Then now, like you said before, I told you my truth. You walk down this path with me. Now I'm the bad guy. How does that work? How am I still the bad guy? I told you before. I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think this is going to work out the way you want it to. You still take the choice with me. Now I'm the bad guy. So it's damned if I do, damned if I don't. That's what basically y'all saying about Clay.
Yes. Yes. And do you know why he's damned? And do you know why I'm going to put more emphasis on him being a man? Why he's damned? Because I call men to be leaders. And unfortunately, this is something that, again, maybe if you caught me a few months ago, I'll let him slide. But the good Lord been arresting me the last few months, so it's unfortunate. But yes, I'm holding him to a higher account, and the reason why I'm holding him to a higher account is because men have the ability to influence. Not saying women don't have the ability to influence; they do as well. But men are called to a leadership aspect, right? And when you're called to leadership, your behavior indirectly is going to be held to a higher level of responsibility. And so, unfortunately, in that situation, if you have that woman coming to tell you, listen, I'm going to continue, he has to remove himself. He has to. It's poor leadership not to do so. Because at the end, when it happens and it backfires on you, you get called to account. That's the only reason why I'm holding him to accountable to a higher level. I'm not saying that AD's doing what AD's doing, we don't have to call her accountable. We do, because she's decided to put herself in that situation.
Okay.
Right? And I know some people are going to say that, I get it. I understand that, that AD put herself in a situation. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they're both going to be accountable. What I'm saying, though, is, unfortunately, in a relationship, the man is the leader. Therefore, when the thing goes wrong, we're going to look at you, because you are the one that's meant to lead. Now, he's not a very good leader. That's also, again, where we can look at AD. AD, why did you choose this person to be a leader? Because you've submitted to somebody who's not a very good leader. Yes, but ultimately, the leader oftentimes gets the head on a chopping block. And that's just the unfortunate reality of life. That's where God wanted it to be. We got gender roles for a reason. You are a man with a penis between your legs for a reason. God is going to hold you to account to certain levels. I'm just saying. That's my own behavior too. I'm telling you my things too. I hold myself accountable and I say, hey.
Patriotic gender laws, but okay. But anyway, since we got a good debate going on, I'm gonna go stay on this side, okay? It's a good debate because it's fleshing out a lot of things. He told her in the kitchen, I don't think this is going. I'm not on this timeline. I'm not on this timeline. Was the time for him to walk away? Is that what you're saying? Is that the time for him to walk away?
Absolutely.
Because if she sit there and say, I'm listening, I see you. If she sit there and say, I take a yes or no, he's still supposed to walk away. You just supposed to quit a relationship right there. You're supposed to just quit a relationship. Okay. Go ahead, Elsa, because that's what I just want to know, how soon we supposed to be quitting relationships, because I see we just trying to drop them on the spot now.
Well, I'm not discussing quitting the relationship. What I'm going to present is that, wasn't he leading in that moment? Wasn't he saying, I really can't do this. I don't think we should do this. He was leading, saying, we ain't walking over to the chapel. And she pulled it back in. And what did he started to do? He started to follow her narrative. She said, well, if you do this, we can't see each other anymore. Da, 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 da. She put down her ultimatum and he decided to what? Capitulate. He decided to follow. So again, he was leading. He said he wasn't a good leader, but he was leading in that moment. So I'll mute myself for the response.
No, I'm gonna add on to this since you coach like Bible and all this stuff like this. This is gonna bring us back to Adam and Eve. Since men are supposed to be leaders, and Adam was there long before Eve was, talked to God firsthand by himself, knew the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the rules. Eve came along and said, hey, this apple look juicy. Let's try it. Adam, and here's the kicker. Adam told Eve the rules, not God. Adam told Eve the rules that God gave him. She said, yeah, I hear you, bruh. But I really want to taste that fruit right there, though.
Would you like to join me in tasting?
Adam was a perfect man that didn't lead. So now we are supposed to have these imperfect men. And I understand, yes, they should be leaders. But if Adam, the perfect man, fell short, when a young man himself come along, I got to give him some grace. Now, if he continuously falls short, he continuously does this pattern, then we got a damn effing problem. Okay. If one more lady come out and be like, yeah, no, this is what he do, like Jeremy's situation, then we got a effing problem. Okay. But that's why I be trying to give him some grace, because even though he's self-aware, he's doing this, that tells me when I'm self-aware and I don't know where to go, I need help. Somebody please help me. What he needs is not AD to help him. He needs men who have been down this pattern and been down this journey before, who can sit there and say, I got you, young man, let me pull you up. This is the road you take. He ain't had that. We heard him tell us he ain't had that. So that's what he needs right now. That's the people he's crying out to, is those men. I need your help. I'm trying to be a better man. Somebody come guide me. Unfortunately, AD was, I'm here. No, sis, sit down. Sit down, let them men come. Because we as women can only take the men so far. Our thing is to breathe life into our man and suggest the path that we want him to go down. Just the way Eve suggests eating that daggone apple. Now you make sure you got to pick the right woman now, because she might lead you down the wrong path, as you can clearly see. But as she has suggested him eat that apple, we're supposed to breathe suggestions into the man, and he has to find his way. We cannot pull a man to be a man. If you pulling a man to be a man, that's not your man. That's your friend. At the most. At the most. So, baby, it was never her job to build him in the first place. And that's the problem. Because she was trying to build him and he was allowing her. And so where you fall short on the leadership, I agree with you on this part. He's allowing her to build him when he should be building himself or finding men to help build him. So I'll give you that much on the leadership. Leadership part.
Listen, I mean, we agree. I think we actually agree. We're kind of almost giving an angle perspective into a situation. So I think we actually agree a lot of it. I think when I'm looking at Clay, again, I'm not calling him a villain. I don't necessarily think he's a villain. I'm saying that, and again, he's not a fully formed man yet. And the reason why I say that is because you need to be able to have vision of where something is going. And if you're willing to commit to destruction, be able to own it. Right? Like, I know it's going to go destruction. I got to own it, and the consequences happen. And that's also for AD too. As a woman, you got to be able to see that, okay, if I'm willing to lay in my bed, I got to own it when it gets to the end, and I can't complain when it gets to the end. Do you get what I'm saying to you? That's what big boys and big girls do, right? They put the big boy pants on when they go, you know what? I know this might not be good for me. I'm going to stick in it, and the consequences, whatever come what may, chips won't fall, I'm going to handle it. Now, sometimes you get to the other end and you don't realize how heavy the consequences are. And then you're like, do you know what? The consequences are a bit mad. And I really didn't see that coming. That's also fair as well. That's a readjustment. That's somebody who's also still able to take the consequences, but you're like, I really didn't think it was going to be this deep. But you're still aware of the fact that you took a decision. I think what I was saying with Clay is that if you keep telling her that you're not ready, then you need to go. Because what's going to happen is, and I say this, I say it from almost a perspective of like a business project in a sense, right? AD will still have responsibility, but unfortunately, the accountability is going to fall on your neck as the leader of the project. AD will still be responsible, and we probably could both get fired from this job. But the reality is, the accountability falls on that project leader's neck. And in that situation, when you keep telling her that you're not ready for a relationship, I want you to get up and get out. Right? Because in that situation, all you're going to do is it is going to backfire on you. Right? Eventually it's going to backfire on you. And then all that happens is you knew you weren't ready. So if you know you're not ready, take a step back. I'm not saying AD doesn't have to do the same thing too. We're not absolving AD from the situation. This is not it's both of them, but I'm saying, and where I'm placing the higher responsibility is on Clay. And I'm saying to you that as we come to responsibility or the accountability, I'm looking at you like, hey, brother, remove yourself from that situation then. Because you know it's not for you. and you say you love her and you care about her, then you need to protect her. Okay, the altar, we can understand that could be one way of looking at it. That was his way of going, well, we're going to go to the altar, right? And maybe some information will come out later on, and we'll find out that AD knew he said no before the altar, and they discussed it, and they didn't know, and it was part of their thing. Then we can be like, okay, do you know what? They both kind of knew, they've played on it a little bit, and they got their cash worth. Then we can kind of change that narrative. Just going on based on the information we've got so far, and I'm looking at obviously Clay and his kind of behavior. I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, unfortunately, you are going to get the harsher judgment on here, because going back to Adam and Eve, that story, Adam actually was standing right next to Eve when Eve was talking to the snake. It was a failure of leadership to not spot there was an enemy in the camp when an animal was talking to, like a snake, telling you something different to what you had heard from God. So that was a failure on Adam's part to protect Eve, and then it ended up leaving him exposed too. So when you fail to protect the person you're in a relationship with, it actually exposes you as well. So that's what I was saying about the leadership aspect, that yes, he's not a very good leader, and I'm sorry that AD chose him, because she's got to have accountability on that aspect. If we're just talking from her life, if we were just sitting down with AD, we'd say, AD, you need to be accountable, because what you did here, you chose somebody who told you they don't want to be here, they told you they're not a good leader, they told you you don't have to lead relationships, this is not the man for you. But you saw a victory in building him up, right? You saw a victory in building them up. You saw a victory in uplifting them to a point to save them, but really and truly, you didn't realize that's going to end up badly for you, right? And then when I'm looking from the Clay perspective, I'm going, okay, Clay, you know you got to take accountability too, because you kept on telling her you don't want to be here. You telling her you're not ready for the situation. You want to get out. And then when I look at it from an overall perspective, I go, in the end, men are called to lead these relationships. Therefore, I will put a little bit more onus on you and your behavior. This situation was always going to be painful, irrespective of what happens. But you could have saved some of that pain by exiting that thing. And maybe don't have to exit the relationship. Maybe not an exit relationship kind of. I mean, personally, I think it is an exit relationship. What I mean by that is we got to go our separate ways, and you got to work on you, and I got to work on me. Because it was left so late. If it was done earlier, maybe after the pods and they spoke, then it could be like, you know what? We are willing to work together and make this thing happen, because we can't get married because we realize it ain't gonna be great. That is what I was expecting from somebody who's leading in that situation, because you're realizing the damage that's going to be done at the very end, it's going to be so much more. And then I'm going to be affected by that too, as well as you. And if I really care about you, especially as a man, my last point is that sometimes I have to protect you from you. I have to protect me from you. You know what I'm saying to you? And we have to protect each other sometimes from each other by taking decisions that necessarily aren't beneficial to us right now in terms of what we really want. But it's long term, it's going to work better for us. And that's why I was looking at him in that way. But I agree with you too as well. There is accountability on everybody's side here that needs to be taken account. And no one is clean here. I don't want to call anyone a villain at all. Yes, Elsid.
But Kojo, what you're describing requires that we listen to each other. We got to listen to each other and come to a compromise, come to a middle ground. You know, I'm sure if he had discussed this after the kitchen table, because she put a firm foot down, like, no, we done after this wedding. Then cameras are gone. Hey, we need to talk about this. We're both looking at parents with failed marriages. We're both, struggling here. So can we work on this? Yes, we had a timeline, but I did not come in here as healed or along in my healing journey as you have. And if we go into our carnage, Clay should have been questioning AD from the pods with her interest in Matthew. I mean, her judgment there. The reddest of the flags was on her list of her high list. If he hadn't have stayed, what would have been the choice? Matthew or Clay? I mean, come on. When he was sitting there fuming in the men's lounge about, oh my God, Matthew, he ain't even on my level. You should have been thinking, Why is my girl even entertaining this man? But again, that's just a different way of looking at it.
I think Elsa said some of what I was going to say, because I was going to say, how can I lead a person that doesn't see my vision? If I keep telling you my vision, I'm literally describing my vision to you, and you keep saying, yeah, but no, I think you should put some trees over there. No, ma'am. That's not what I put on this paper. My canvas is set, got what it got on there. Don't add, don't take away, leave it alone. This is the vision right now. The vision is not in this 2-week time frame. He never said it's not no marriage, period. It was a time frame. It was why we have to do it so fast, so soon. And like Life of Botch kind of mentioned in the chat, it was more about the wedding ceremony more than the marriage. And that's a problem. You just want the ceremony. You just want this thing. You don't actually want the whole marriage. That's a red flag too. You're not worried about the fact that I might possibly dip out on the marriage. That's a little bit of red flag too. If I'm telling you that I have some issues and you're not even stopping me as a healer and saying, baby, you need to go work on yourself. I like you. You cute and all, but yeah, you need to go work on yourself. Sometimes as a healer, we got to step back and just sit there and say, baby, this is more work than I can handle. Okay, I see you. I see the good in you. I see the potential in you and all this stuff like that. But this is out of my league. I need to send you to somebody else. And just let that person go. And we're going to keep going in circles about these two couples because both of them got a lot to blame. These two people, they both got a lot to blame. So it's going to keep going back and forth of who it is. And I do agree, as a leader, Clay needed to step up. But he ain't had a leader in his thing. He had women lead. His mama's been a lead. He told us he was still a mama's boy. And she said, you still are. So she's still leading. His mama basically was the one who gave him the advice to do what's in his heart when he got to that altar. His mama already knew he was having doubts and that he was possibly going to say no. She knew already. She knew where it was coming from and why it was happening. She the one who led the daddy into going to tell his own son sorry for the things he did. He's used to women leading. So he needs to have some other people, some men that are married. I don't want to say long-term relationship. He needs men that's married and within his circle, his group of circle friends. You know what I'm saying? He can have his single friends and he needs some married friends. Some men that's been married for a while, who's been going through some things. Some people that got some solid advice for him. Because he doesn't know how to lead outside of a woman. I'm sorry. It sounds funny, but it's like in a relationship outside of a woman, that's what his mama's been doing. His sister give me like she a little bossy too. So she probably been running some stuff too. So like, he got a lot of work. AD should have just let this man go so he can go work on himself. Instead of thinking that she can heal. Like, baby, you need therapy after this. You gonna need therapy after this. Let him go. I'm gonna try to get back on in a second. Let me get ready.
Yeah, no, listen, and again, I think we're kind of seeing things quite similarly as well. I I think the situation with looking at so it's sister splitting the secrets on TikTok. Oh Lord, what's she saying on there? Does anyone have the link so we can bring it up? But I think in that situation you're right. I mean, I looked at Clay, and unfortunately he didn't have the training that he's required. That's the why. It's not an excuse, but that's the why. You know what I mean? Like he didn't have the training, unfortunately. The programming that has been put into him. Unfortunately, as we said, the mum has been stable, but the father has been, I would say, unaccountable. Looking at the dad and how he behaved in that wedding. I mean, Phil was right. You got a whole supervillain as a father. You know what I mean? Like you've got all the hallmarkings of the beginning of a Marvel movie, like literally, because a father who doesn't protect you as a child, that means emotionally there's going to be some disparity there. Emotional protection wasn't there because you're being physically taken to whatever the father's going to be, to commit infidelity against the mother. You're keeping secrets against them. You're gonna have to hold some secrets against the mother unwillingly as well, I'm sure. And you don't even know why you're doing it. That, and also as well because, like I said, once you've seen darkness, it's very difficult. You can't unsee it. So if you now seen a father who is meant to be the dad that protects you, loves you, cares about you, loves your mother, and ends up, sneakily behaving, by cheating on your mother in that particular way, unfortunately, you're going to pick up some of those habits, or at least pick up some of those skills. And sometimes you have a detest for yourself that you've picked up some of those traits and some of those skills. And unwittingly, you end up repeating some of the mistakes that maybe your father's done because you haven't actually figured out the why you do what you do, right? So sometimes you're aware, but you ain't figured out the why you do what you do and the root cause of where that's coming from. And I put in my notes because I was going to talk about it earlier on, but I didn't get around to it, that a lot of these things stem from emotional neglect and emotional wounds, right? So promiscuity. I can't say the word. You know the word now.
Promiscuity.
Promiscuity. Thank you very much, Alcid. It stems from the emotional component. People that are looking to be healers and overdoing the healing are coming from emotional issues. These come from when there's an imbalance in your childhood where you've either been underdeveloped in terms of an emotional aspect, and so therefore, because there's that wound or that hole or that gaping space, you fill it up with trying to find a balance or healing that wound, and you go over and beyond. And that's what I'm saying about Claire. I can understand where it's coming from. I'm not giving him a pass. I can just understand where it's coming from because your dad, who's supposed to cover you, protect you, show you the way to be a man, isn't showing you that, right? And unfortunately, that does a lot of damage, for that particular person going forward. So me personally, I hope he's done the work because they are together now. No, I'm not really together, but I see them. Whatever. I hope they are working it out, and I hope that he's in therapy because it's salvageable. It just needs some time, though. You know what I mean? In order to get to that place. But yeah, go for it, Sid.
This is, though, assuming that Clay has not encountered any men in his life that were the faithful husband rearing their children. Clay has gone to college. He's been around a whole bunch of folks. I don't know if he's in a fraternity like his dad's Pin. His dad is in a fraternity. But this is assuming he hasn't encountered men walking a righteous path.
I mean, I think he did say it, didn't he? He said, like, he ain't really seen it. And then he mentioned also seeing that how he even watched TV shows and doing it, didn't he?
But has he not seen it? Or is his vision from childhood so tunneled that he only sees versions like his father? He's only receptive to versions like his father. Exactly. So it may be in his realm. He had all the celebrities in the world to choose from. And those were the two he chose. So I would see that as his vision is tunneled. He ran track. He has a tunnel vision. When you're running track, you're not concerned with who's to the left or right. You're just concerned with the lines that you stay in between and the finish line. So he's encountered that. He's seen it. He's seen celebrities like that. But you pick two celebrities right now that are wrecking carnage in the headlines as your role models. I mean, he went to college. They're professors. They're people. That's why it takes a village. There's a community of people. There's a community around that of men that he probably knows that are like that, but that's not his vision. So how can he lead? How can he look to them when his first teacher is his father? And his mother is a therapist, right?
I don't know. Probably the way she handled that situation, she should be.
I thought I read somewhere that if she's not a therapist, she's a counselor of some kind. She admitted she just knew about all of this stuff with this show. So she probably been trying to help her son, attain what he needs to attain. But she can't help him, but so far, because he's also withholding information from her. To answer the celebrities he picked and he said were Will Smith and Puff Daddy. So again, those two, Will Smith, you could have said at least Uncle Phil. I mean, something of an upstanding man taking care of his family, but those were the celebrities he chose. But it could work, but he's at the first stage of admission of what's wrong. But you got some heavy lifting. And sometimes you, the person, AD, you've got to remove yourself so he can do all of this heavy lifting for himself. Because sometimes your proximity, he's doing this for you. And he's going to tell himself he's doing this to make himself a better man for you. Sometimes you got to remove yourself. That way he's doing it on his own for his own reasons. And he has to find his own foundation independent of you. Because what I've, learned from my family is that when my grandfather passed away, the foundation was rocked. It was rocked because he was the foundation. He built everything. He held everything together. But as my grandmother, my mother, myself, he unfortunately knew he was passing. So he was preparing me for the inevitable. Yes, that's a heavy burden, but he knew what was happening. So again, the foundation is needed, and he needs to build that foundation himself. Also, it's not going to work, and that house is not going to stand if he hasn't built the foundation strong himself.
I'm definitely hearing you. Definitely hearing you. Yeah, man, it's tough, man. It's tough, but I think, like I said, I think this is a situation where, like I said, having marriage is one of those. It's not an easy decision to undertake. I say undertake, but to maintain. It's not an easy situation to maintain. Choosing the right person is often a part of the major success of that relationship. But in that situation, I feel like with Clay and AD, they are your typical couple, man, who make these decisions. I think we're a generation now that, though, is we got to be committed to doing some work before we enter these spaces. We no longer have marriage as a survival tool. So therefore, marriage is no longer if I don't get married, life won't go on. We actually don't have that anymore. Do you know what I mean? And so therefore, that premise now is that almost like marriage is a luxury. It's like if you're a luxury, then that means now you it's not a given. It's not it has to be, So there's time for us to work before we get into that space now. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes it's hard because a lot of us have not seen our face before. We've never seen our reflection before. You know what I mean? And your eyes can only see from your perspective. And so sometimes we haven't had good people in our lives that have been able to really reflect to us what's really going on and what's really happening in the moment when we behave the way we're behaving and when we do what we're doing. And like I've said to myself, if I got married at like 25, 26, I'll probably be divorced by now. You know what I mean? Probably because my conflict resolution wasn't great. You know what I mean? I'm an avoidant heavily at that point in time. Had it not been for God, I wouldn't be in a situation. So I'm offering grace to both AD and Clay. I'm just pointing out that there are actual issues and they need to be worked on. Like this, you actually can't skip past this. Like the foundation needs to be set correctly. If it doesn't get set correctly, you are liable to potentially have a very poor foundation that won't stand when there's pressure being applied. That doesn't mean it's never going to work. I'm just saying that we're talking about probability of something failing or working. And so you want to give yourself the best probability of it working. And since marriage is no longer a survival tool, there is no, oh, I'm sticking in this to survive. No, people, if that's what you're doing, I'm packing my bags and I'm going. And people are doing it, right? So we want to get to a space where we are being very careful as well, like, on how we deal with that situation. But yeah, I mean, I think they can still work if they're doing the work, and hopefully they are. Hopefully she hasn't allowed him to get back in and not do the work and not level up in that space, because he will repeat the mistakes of his father if he's saying everything but not changing anything about it. And then you're also enabling him by not holding him accountable to his word by saying, you know what, you actually need to go and do the work. Do you know what I'm saying to you? But that can be very difficult when you're falling in love with somebody at that point in time, which is why you need a space, because that space enables you just to kind of recover yourself. Because that's why I have compassion for 82. I know it, when you're in it, it's only the hardcore people that can go, do you know what? I'm sticking to business. I'm stepping out. You have to, like, it's hardcore people who can do this. Like, and a lot of us are not hardcore as we think we are, right? So I'm saying that it takes a lot to be able to do that. It takes people around you also sometimes, well, just to kind of keep speaking into you, and eventually kind of clicks, and you're like, do you know what? I do need to step away. So I hope they've had time to be able to step away. I hope they've had time to kind of process what's happened and really think about a plan going forward. If not, someone needs to grab them now, because they're not married yet. I don't think they're married yet. Grab them now, okay, and hopefully offer them some good amount of advice and some counseling going forward, because once you get into that marriage space, now we're locked in. You know what I mean? So just that little tidbit to add. But it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy.
But that requires you having faith to just jump off. You just got to jump off and still put in the work to make it work. You know, I don't know if you're throwing stones, but I was first married at 24. You know.
No stones were thrown. I can't be throwing stones. My house is very...
Hey, even if you're throwing stones, throw them. I'm gonna catch them, deflect them, or whatever. But you see, and I wonder, and maybe I should ask you this, Kojo: Am I just more sympathetic to Clay because of the dark artist I am?
Maybe.
Or reformed? Because I haven't done Carnage. I haven't taken anybody to the altar and then said no, but I have. I have dabbled in dark, deep dark, and now I'm reformed, but I still have my mental incapacity for it. And I think that's where my grace as well for him comes. You know, I have been there. I have influenced people to my side. And I have seen I wouldn't say the error of my ways, because there were many benefits to the errors. But I have seen where you've got to make a change if you want to do something better, or you want to see something different. So I think that's where my grace comes in, because I know he can do it. I know it's a possibility. He already's got a strong work ethic, so he can pull it through. And I think because I'm not the healer or pour into you as much as AD, if it's not my spouse, it's not my children, it's not my, tight circle, I don't see pouring so much into and leaving myself empty. I've always been on the premise of the airline, put my mask on first, or I'm not going to let you deplete me. I'm going to make sure I have enough to step up and walk away, to step up and be able to take charge and be able to stand by myself. See, that's the other thing with walking away from a relationship. You got to be able to say, I'm going to make it, whether you with me or not. I'm going to make it, not in spite of or anything like that. I'm going to make it, whether you're here or not. Your happiness, your, forward thinking does not depend on that person. And I think too many times, for me, I see people, and it could be a problem with me because I've been told before that I can be a wall, but I'm a wall for people outside my four walls many a time. So for me, they can work. They are a typical couple. And what I applauded is that we can have these conversations for the typical ADs and Clays out there to be able to get themselves to a point where they can have a fruitful marriage. But again, what I would say is the definition of marriage has changed. Marriage has changed. There are so many 20 somethings and early 30s who have never been to a wedding. They've never been. When I was growing up, we always went to somebody's wedding. We knew the etiquette, just like Claire was like, I didn't know that happened. I didn't know that happened at a wedding. I didn't know the ins and outs. That too taught me a little bit. He's unserious. It's like you're going through this process. You know it's a wedding at the end. You don't know, you haven't researched what a wedding entails, all of that stuff. But he's working. He's working hard. And this is probably the first vacation he had in a while. So we need to also make marriage a priority. And I don't think we have. I don't think we are at a point. But I think that's because so many of us are not ready for that commitment. We're not ready, and we have not had parents to make us ready for that. If my grandparents weren't till death, I don't think I would have, gone down the path of marriage. My mother never married, ever. And I may have fallen into that cycle of never marrying. But I guess for all of us where we are now, we have got to make marriage important again.
Definitely with you on that one, Elsid. Definitely with you. That focus on marriage is a big focus, man. But I think there's a need. There's a need for obviously good mentors and good speakers who speak life into marriage and relationships. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to have as much conversations as we can, good healthy dialogue and conversations about relationships, so people can actually begin to look at relationships and marriage in a different way. And as I get more experience, as I talk to more people, as I see more things, you grow in wisdom, you grow more in understanding, you know what I mean? And you grow in seeing things differently. With marriage, it's a very difficult thing because in our generation right now, marriage, the information that we get access to oftentimes is quite negative. And the reality is because most marriages that are really working, niggas are quiet. Okay? That's why it's working. Okay? Because they're quiet. Okay? When you're at peace, you're not out here on these streets talking about my marriage this, my marriage that. You don't invite things into your marriage because you understand that it's about keeping the protection of that marriage. So unfortunately, what happens is the loudest noise and the loudest conversations tend to be from people who are broken, been hurt, have been in damaged situations. People took advantage of them. A man was this, a woman was that. And oftentimes those messages get put out more because those people are willing to speak and they're willing to talk about everything that happened, everything that went wrong. And people oftentimes are speaking also before the healing has taken place. So what will come out is brokenness. So when they're speaking from a place of brokenness. And oftentimes most people don't come back and be like, guys, I was speaking from a place of brokenness. Where I was coming from is because I was broken in that moment. And, I felt this way, but now I've recovered and I've healed. Let me go back over what I said. Let me change this, and this. This was wrong. At that point in time, I was hurt. And we don't often get that from people. So it's very difficult then to change the narrative for a lot of people because the information coming in is quite poor. Go for it, yeah.
I think it is the responsibility too of those of us who are married, we are not also, when asked, because we ain't sharing, we ain't yelling at the mountaintop, but when we are asked, we do share honestly. Marriage is not going to be the fairy tale happily ever after. You've got to work. You are also growing together. And as any plant grows, if it's too much sun, the leaves will get singed. If it's too much water, it might end up with root rot. You got to find a balance. But some of us who are married aren't telling the truth. What I love about certain wedding ceremonies are those that feed the bride and groom a bit of salt and a bit of honey. There's going to be some salty days and there are going to be some honey days. And y'all have got to navigate that together. And for many, if you have not seen that, experienced that, just having the basics of negotiation and talking to each other is going to be a problem. I'm telling you, my husband and I, 7 years this year. This is my second marriage. There are things I'm coming into it differently. I have learned, still healing, ain't completely healed, still healing, but he's also coming in. This is a second round for him. We've both learned from each past and from the people around us. Where we get to tangoing or sometimes is going to be salty, or sometimes we just bantering with each other because we ready to verbally have a back and forth, meaning discussions on topics, not going at each other. Because sometimes I take a pro, he take a con, and we just throw in ideas and throw in stuff out there. But again, we, the married folk, need to also admit that there's good and bad days, the rainy days, sunny days. And, I don't just say, oh, everybody needs to get married. No, because it ain't for some. It's not for some. It's not for everybody. You have to determine if it's good enough for you. I can say, hey, this is what you may encounter. Prepare yourself and train yourself for this. But again, you have got to determine for yourself, and you got to determine if this is the person worth that walk through the trenches. It's not a battlefield. I don't like saying it's a battlefield, but it is a walk. It is a long walk. It is years and years of walking. Are you going to walk with this person hand in hand? Are you going to let this person lead the walk? Are they going to let you lead at times? Are they worth the long walk? And that's for each person to decide for themselves. Sometimes you got to walk away and come back. Sometimes you got to just walk away. But marriage ain't for everybody. And sometimes you got to admit that. Sometimes maybe it ain't your time. I wasn't looking to get married a second time. Hell no. But again, someone found me that's worth walking that line again. Because he found me because I wasn't out there looking.
Oh, I think Jay's back. I think she'll be back in a sec. Yeah, no, listen, and I think, you hit the nail on the head. I this situation is it's interesting. I won't even say it's not anything too tough, but for me, the last few years, even when it's about marriage, it's not really been on my mind. I can't lie to you. You know what I mean? Till I met something, then it changed my mind. But and I can't lie to you. Until I met an immovable object, and I was like, oh, maybe I do think about marriage. But and I think this is, I think the situation as you're describing, is important, because I think, this is the kind of conversation that we have, and you're right. We need healthy marriages who can tell us some truths about getting into marriage and stuff. And also as well, sometimes we need people to drop the pretense, man. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, like drop the pretense, tell us the truth. Maybe not all the truth that that might damage a relation, but just tell some truth. You know what I mean? Like you've had moments where it's been up, it's been down. You've had some moments where maybe you thought it was this, but it wasn't that. Do you know what I mean? And saying that, not everyone can even handle that, because as soon as you do, people start saying struggle love, struggle love. They immediately label it without actually listening that there are ups and downs and peaks and troughs in relationships. Go for it, Elsid.
It can be something very simple, as in how you navigate. So for my husband and I was raised a lot of etiquette, a lot of social graces. You ask for stuff, So while I don't mind sharing with my partner, there's a certain level of deference that I was accustomed to. Not my husband. He's like, hey, we in this together. I ain't got to ask. I ain't got to say nothing. I could just do, because we in this together. And without that communication and deference, I'm thinking I'm not being considered. So, sometimes it's just a disconnect in communication styles. But yeah, that could be just the disconnect that you have. But the ones that for a dark artist, and the ones that make us start thinking about marriage and push us back on our heels, you realize later that you have just delved into an antechamber of the dark arts that you weren't prepared for. And you then have to navigate and see, how did I get played? Not played in that sense, but how did I not see that coming? How did they get me to put my cards down and stop playing this game, even considering it? That's when you realize you have not reached the pits of the dark arts well. You still got a ways to go. But I have been there. You're spinning like a top and you're like, wait a minute, when did this start?
I'm telling you, listen.
How we get here?
Look, I may not have been married, but let me tell you this now. From what I've observed, good marriages, people have dark hearts. Okay? And I know people don't like me saying it, because they're like, what does it have to do with Jesus and the Bible? What does it have to do with marriages? And I'm like, listen, from what I've observed with different married couples, when you get close to them and they start telling you stories, someone, if not both, have done some dark hearts in some shape or form. Because unfortunately, as human beings, how we are, we can take things for granted. We get complacent, right? So sometimes you have to have some ways about you that sharp. Sometimes that puts a sharp pain in someone, just to remind them to wake the frick up. Like, you keep playing with me, you're gonna find out, right? So when I say about being dark arts, it's not to say that go all out there and start moving absolutely mad. It's about, for me personally, for what I've witnessed. And that's what I'm saying to you. It's what I've witnessed. And maybe I'm in the wrong couples. But what I've witnessed is people have some level of dark arts, in the sense of, like I said, if things are not going away, sometimes just to remind the person, listen, hey, fix the frick up. And maybe I've said it a few times, but you ain't really listened. So now I got to kind of show you a little bit. But you know your limitations. You're not going too far, but a little prod in there, just a little prick, just to shake the person. You know when you get a little static shock and it just shakes you, just that to wake the person up. So when I say that, having a level of dark heart, I can't tell you exactly what it is, because that's exposing people's relationship. But it's just once you know your power, you know how much to apply and not to apply, depending on your partner and what they can and can't take. And you should know that by each individual relationship, it's very different. So I couldn't give a specification to say how that is 100%. You know what I mean?
But sometimes your dark arts can be very sweet. It doesn't have to be a static shock. It doesn't have to be a shock to the system. It could just be subtly reminding the person why they are with you. It could be subtle. If they're acting out of character, you can be quite sweet in pulling them back in. It don't have to be a static shock, Kojo. This may be a new chapter of your dark arts narrative, it could be quite sweet because if they're acting out of order out there, you could do what AD did. You could plan a game night because maybe game nights was your thing. And then they will sit and think about all the nights they've been wilding, and this is what they haven't been coming home to. So sometimes your dark artistry can be quite subtle, gentle, and for the fun of it. And the person doesn't even know they're being caught up in Charlotte's web because you have what? Used silk string to bring them back. The next chapter of that in the member's life.
I definitely hear that. I definitely hear that. Jay, you there? I don't know if you wanted to say
Um,
anything.
yeah, I'm here. I'm not gonna add on to what else it is talking about. Using dark arts as a positive because, like we learned yesterday, certain words, even though they have, for most use of them, have a negative connotation. We hear the word dark, and we automatically assume it's bad or whatnot. Manipulation, we hear the word, we assume it's bad, but actually to manipulate is to change something for a different outcome. Sometimes we have to use manipulation for good as well. So that's what the dark arts that El Cid is actually referring to, is when we use our pleasantry in nice ways. Like I say, women are suggesters. So if you're using your way of suggesting the good of the relationship, you might have to dabble in a little bit of dark arts to get your way, your outcome. You might have to get a little more seductive in your voice and your dress and your style. You might have to light some candles. And if you're a man, throw down them rose petals and run the bath water and do these little things. We play these little games back and forth with each other to keep us invested in the relationship, to keep the relationship from growing stale and us feeling too comfortable and complacent in it and just feeling like we don't have to do the things that once attracted that person. And from talking to people who've been married since they were in high school, and this is the only person they've been married to, every day is not a good day. And the best advice that they ever gave me is, you wake up every single day learning, saying, what am I going to learn to love about this person I'm with today? You don't think about yesterday's love. You don't think about tomorrow's love. You think about right here, right now, in this moment. What can I find about this person that makes me happy and want to continue to be with them? And I think that's the best advice. That's been one of the things that even helped me be in a long-term relationship with somebody, is just every single day we're both working. And that's what you want. You want both parties working towards the same goal. You want a partner who's not going to fight you, but fight with you for the same thing. If y'all both fighting, but y'all fighting for two different things, it's not going to work. If you both fighting each other, of course we know it's not going to work. But if we are both dedicated to one another and say, hey, here's the end goal, this is the plan, you might have to go around that way, I might have to go around this way, but if we hit our target, that's the goal. We got to do this together no matter what. And that's the person that you want to find to be your person at the end of the day, is somebody that is willing to stand by your side and say, hold your hand and say, hey, I'm in this with you. And that's all.
Yeah, man, 100%. And it's even funny. I was talking to someone quite recently. I was telling them, listen, if I know you guys always see me here on YouTube and stuff, and I said, listen, unless the good Lord is the one that tells me, directs me, y'all won't see my partner. You won't see who it is. You know what I mean? We won't be doing videos together. Unless the good Lord has told me it's exactly it has to be done. I personally don't want to be seen. I don't want to be on here doing those kind of things. It's not my ministry until maybe at least 10 years. I need some good track running. You know what I mean? First, because I feel like when you're in the first 2 years, it's very honeymoon phase and you say a lot of things. But unless God directs me to do it, I won't be trying to do it personally. But so yeah, I love listening to married couples. I love listening to some of their conversations and stuff like that. Exactly. And I think like I said, obviously sometimes, when I'm coaching, I coach sometimes people that are going into marriage or people that are going to who are even married as well sometimes, right? And I always tell people, listen, I'm not coaching people about their marriage. I'm coaching them about issues that happen to everybody in relationships, because the relationships are consistent, the issues are consistent. And so sometimes figuring out issues and learn how to work through them is actually a result of problem solving. Man, this is probably how I got caught up. So I got caught up with a. To this day, I've not forgotten that situation. Oh, girl hit me with a problem solving, and then you know what I mean, and something that I think, and I'll share this on a video when I do it one day, right? And probably sometime a little bit in a few weeks or months, whatever, when I've properly gathered all the information. One of the things that I realized that I looked for now in my older age, I guess, going on, is someone who problem solves. Right. And so, once you start realizing two people are problem solving, you tend to kind of realize that, okay, whenever there is a problem, what are we trying to do? And I love that, because I feel like it doesn't put the onus on one person to try and solve all the issues, which is where the resentment sometimes kicks in for people. But both people are trying to figure out how to do something and how to solve things. And I had this great experience where this person where I could see their weaknesses and they could see mine. And I could see that where we were trying to cover each other in those areas just to be able to bring up a better way of working together as teammates. And I started really realizing that, that teamwork thing is a really big thing. I remember we went to, well, you never not say it too tough, because obviously, in my dark art stage, I was taking a few people there. So, but let me behave myself. But no, there's a particular place that I like to go to. And now I can say I'm being facetious, but literally it's just I love going to escape rooms. Escape rooms are a beautiful thing, because I love the ability to be able to work with somebody and figure out. And you get to really see how someone works with you under pressure and also trying to solve issues. And it wasn't like I was testing anybody. It's just literally just something I observed. I was like, you know what? I realized, when you do these things, it really does open your eyes up to how people actually operate, how people move, how people think, how people work with you. Are they a team worker, not a team worker? And so it opened my eyes to the teamwork aspect of relationships, that sometimes you can be two separate people, and rather than actually people who are working together towards a certain goal. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're two separate people, if that works for you 100%, then you go for it. I personally see things working better when people are a bit more collaborative. But obviously some of us have got, more avoidant tendencies. So I like to have a bit of my space, but still at the same time, I have to realize I have to be interdependent, meaning I can't run ahead and leave you behind. I also can't fall too far behind and be dragged, because it's gonna get frustrating for both people. So there has to be this kind of almost conscientiousness of your partner, that and someone described it as almost like an egg spoon race, and having your legs tied together. And I remember God showed me something, and it's my last point. Last year, not this year, but the year before in Ghana, I was doing some high rope stuff, right? And me and the girl were doing it, and I zoomed ahead. I got to the other side, and God was just like, if you did in a relationship, you know how problematic that is? That you just zoomed ahead. Yeah, you can scream and shout from the other side, but you've zoomed ahead. You've left the person behind. I was like, what do you mean? It's like, you zooming ahead, you left the person behind. It doesn't mean that you don't grow, doesn't mean that you shouldn't grow, doesn't mean that you shouldn't develop, but there's a way that you go about it, there's a way to go about it in a sense, right? So in a sense that doesn't leave your partner almost like, I'm gone. You just got to catch up. And the reality is, I can't do that. Because when you're solo, you can do whatever you want. When you're in a relationship, you can't just go, I'm gone. I say I'm ahead. You got to figure it out. No, you're tied together. Your destiny's tied together. So you actually can't just be like, I'm gone. Do you know what I'm saying to you? And the reason why I'm saying is because my perspective here, as a Christian, I've come into relationships where I've been deep in the word of God, right? And I will just be like unraveling things in the word to the person. The person's like, whoa, it's a bit heavy. I'm like, you ain't got it yet? Come on, get it, man. And in my head, I don't say it out loud, but in my head, I'm thinking it. And what that does to you is when you say that the person hasn't got it, is immediately you start looking at that person downwardly. And you know what I'm saying to you, rather than looking at, and I learned this literal lesson when I was talking to one of my exes, and then we're having a Bible study, and she said something so simple. I was like, it's not that. And then God told me, how dare you? How dare you, with your arrogance, tell her that it's not that? And I was like, what do you mean? It wasn't that. It's like, no. You have looked at the complexity of an answer. She brought the simplicity, and actually that simplicity is how I actually wanted you to look at it. But you thought you were well ahead. So sometimes when you're running it so far ahead, you think you're doing something, but actually your destiny is tied together. So that's why picking a partner is important, because you can't just run ahead and be like, cheerio, you actually with somebody. So yeah, that's my long-winded way of saying, just choose somebody who you can work with, and who you're going to have patience for, and who you actually genuinely care about. Some of you people choose people, you don't even care about them. Let's be honest. You don't even like them. I don't know if Jay also got some additions before we bounce out here. We've got last 10 minutes, so.
For what you said, for me, it depends, on, is it a common goal we're racing to? Because if you race ahead of me on the zip line, whatever, you can go on ahead. There's only so far you're going to go. Now, if you leave me there and head back to the hotel, now we got a problem. But we on the same course. How fast you do it or not, for me, if I have a problem, I would see it as maybe I have an insecurity that I can't keep up. But maybe I can't keep up because I'm not in the same weight class that sends it zipping down. That's not a cheap shot at your weight, but I'm not going to go down the line as fast. That's just what it is. So for me, that ain't that important. Now, if you've gone to the zip line without me, had fun, then we got to talk. But again, what it boils down to is you've got to build your relationship together. Your relationship will look best however you two decide. Because I'm sorry, husband and I, we got a good marriage, but for some of my friends, they'll never sign up for this. Or how we maneuver with each other, or how we just, hang with each other sometimes. They won't sign up for that. But again, my avoidant self, it works because he's got his own thing. I've got my own thing. We've got some things together. We don't step on each other's toes. Maybe sometimes we do, but then we got to figure it out. But everybody's got to define their relationship for themselves. They got to define it.
Perfect. That's something I like as well. I think it's mad anyway. Yeah, that's my thing. I like that you can have some independence as well as obviously having where you guys join together. Do you know what I mean? Just because of my nature of who I am. But there are going to be other people who can do everything together because that's the nature of who they are. You know what I mean? It's about staying true to your nature. So in that sense, yeah, some of us are a bit more of, I need my space, I need my time alone, I need a bit of this to be able to do that. Do you know what I'm saying to you? Just to be able to recuperate, refresh myself, and come back to the relationship the way I need it to come back to. And so that's important. One has to understand that about themselves so they can actually relate that to a person. So it's not looking like I've just left you and I need time alone. It's not you. You don't want to have the thoughts and process of that other person feeling like you're abandoning them or anything like that. But it's, again, you got to know you, and you got to know what you can and can't do. So yeah.
For me, it looks like dependency sometimes if I'm too up under you. My husband goes to play basketball for hours. That's his exercise of choice. He's playing basketball. He's gone to the court for 3 hours sometimes. That's my me time to do what I want to do. I'm not checking for whatever. That's like, okay, I don't have to check on you. We don't have to do anything together. That feeds my avoidance side. That feeds it well. But then I have 2 children, which I cannot escape, but they have their own things going on. They're teen and young adults. So now my avoidance self is resting well. But I'm saying you got to find a balance. If I was not avoidant, I would see a problem with my
With
significant
that.
other going out to play games for
Mm,
3 hours or so. But I could see that. But that's why each person has to define their relationship.
yeah.
If you don't like that, your person is gone for hours, then it's not going to be it for you. But
And that
I'm very avoidant. He's not so much, but he has found something that he's enjoyed so he can give me that time and
time.
space that I need. So again, we have to figure it out together. I need you to be away from me. And okay, if I'm away, what am I going to do to enjoy myself and not bring any tension or issue to the relationship?
And I think that's that beautiful aspect of where communication comes in. Do you know what I mean? And choosing words very wisely, because that can easily go left, right? Especially as we're avoidance, we like, I just need my space. That's not gonna go well. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna go badly. Like it's not gonna go down well.
Get out of
So
here.
you know what I mean? Just come off me. You know what I mean? You're all up on me. You know what I mean? And you don't want it to be that case. And that's why, again, taking that time to really understand yourself and what you need and what you like, it's also important because you can then begin to express that to someone appropriately. Say, hey, look, it's not about you personally, it's about me. I need to be able to recharge and come back to this relationship. So I need a few hours, in the week, whatever, where I'm just by myself and just being able to just do whatever I need to do and then come back. You know what I mean? And again, so that the other person also understands where you're standing and why you do what you do. And I always say that when someone understands the why, they can have more empathy for a situation, and so therefore now their movement is different towards you. But sometimes what happens in relationships is we are trying to read people's minds, or the person is trying to expect you to know, and they haven't discussed it with you. So now they've taken an action that hurts the other person, but really and truly, it wasn't about them trying to hurt the person. It's just that they just didn't know how to discuss it in a way that would be productive, that would bring about the solution or resolution towards the situation. And oftentimes that's where couples usually are. It's like, you should know. It's like, no, I don't know. And now I'm hurt. And now I'm hurt. I'm pissed at you.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's how therapy helped us, because my husband is very much together with your partner, be there with your partner, hold hands, some kind of physical, you know, connection with your partner. And I'm just like, you're smothering me. I'm going to need you to go into the other room. I'm going to need distance. I can't be all up on you like that. But that's difference. But then we have to verbally say that so the other person doesn't feel like you don't appreciate them, you don't like them, they don't spiral and become Chelsea and go into their mind. You got to communicate like, hey, and you got to find the balance. It's like, now I, the avoidant person, have to adjust. I know I need to fill the cup of my partner by giving him that time that he requires, which is not in my nature. But again, it's worth the long walk. It's worth the long walk.
I definitely agree with that. It's and obviously we've got the last few minutes, but um, I love growth moments, man, and just being committed to growth. Um, you know what? I'm just laughing to myself. I can't wait to share the story one day, but it's just not for yet. But it's just I just keep thinking about all these conversations that I had with this person. But you know, when you meet people that are also committed to growth, and are committed to learning, it's such a powerful thing as well, right? Trying to learn about you, trying to learn about yourself, and learn about themselves. I think Jay will know, and Jay Sean will know, because we got into a situation the other day, and I was just vexed. I said, guys, you win. Locked off the phone and got off. I was just vexed. I was angry. Locked it off, got off the phone, and went to for 1 or 2 minutes, was swearing and saying, God, you know what, I'm tired. I'm tired. And then God was like, well, big man, you did say you wanted to work on this little anger problem that you have. You just said you want to work on it. So what are you gonna do? And Jay and Sean will tell you, I literally had to I apologize right there and then and came back. But it's so funny because we had a like next half an hour, 45 minutes, chuckling, laughing about the situation. But what's interesting about it is, for me, is that when you're in a relationship with people, my avoidant self, and this is where I'm saying about growth for other people as well. My avoidant self is that when you cut us, you got a few more cuts before I promise you ain't never gonna see me again, right? So keep going, but just know I've moved a little bit further away from you. It's just, you know what I mean? And it's something that God was talking to me about, and I was like, yeah, I need to start working on it, and being committed to working on that particular aspect, because I do get to that point where I start cutting people off, right? And it's not a great thing to do. And in a relationship, it's really not a great thing to do, because people do cut you. You are guaranteed to be cut at some shape or form, and it's likely to become some kind of deepness, right? And so those moments also are so powerful in a relationship when you're starting to learn and you're committed to learning and to growing and evolving, and really committed to trying to bring a better version of yourself to the table. And I think when that starts to happen as well, and you meet someone else who's also trying to do that too, it's also a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's a beautiful thing, because a lot of us have got scars and issues and stuff like that, and relationships really do put pressure on those wounds. So find somebody that wants to develop with you. You know what I mean?
But then you move from trauma bonding to healing bonding.
Mm.
And you gotta be mindful of that, because now, is your healing truly something you're carrying on your own, or have you gotten someone to carry that cross for you? And when they're gone, can you still carry it yourself?
Mm.
You gotta be mindful of that. That's why I said Clay needed to separate from AD, because yes, it's always great to have someone to help you. You're on a healing journey. You're on a healing journey. Let's journey together. But then if our journeys of healing are intertwined, can I walk this path truly independent?
Mm. No, it's a fair point. Fair point. Can't lie about that. Listen, audience, we've reached our time. We've reached our time. Definitely need to try and have more of these kind of conversations. That last half an hour was really powerful. And I really enjoyed being able to have discussions like that as well. So, audience, thank you so much. Y'all came out 600 strong, and we appreciate you for staying in the room. For those of you who are in the room but haven't necessarily commented, we always encourage you guys, get involved with the chat. This is how you start bonding with people. You'll be surprised how quickly you can form bonds, friendships, relationships with people as well, so never be afraid to join in the conversation. I know it's membership only at the point. It's £1, $1. It's not going to kill you. You know what I'm saying? I made it cheap so that people can actually be a part of the community and not have to suffer for it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, listen, if you're there and you're watching, please always jump in, get involved with the conversations, because these conversations really do. The growth happens when people start interacting. You know what I mean? So get involved, communicate, say your piece, right or wrong. We always acknowledge, and I'm happy to talk as well. So audience, we're going to see you very, very soon. Okay, and don't do anything I wouldn't do. Stay locked, stay loaded, and we'll see you very, very soon. I'm going to leave you with...
Not on my watch. Not on my watch.
That's right. She said not on her watch.